So this second video for section 12.2 is going to discuss vertical shift. And vertical shift is pretty much what it sounds like. It transfers the graph vertically. And again, if you remember the standard form, we were looking at this D part here. This one's a little bit more straightforward. If D is positive, then we move up. And if D is negative, then we move the graph down. And there's two ways to go about doing this as far as graphing goes. So the first way I'm going to show you is on the previous example from the last video, and what you do here is you draw the graph as you would normally, and then you shift everything up by whatever value D is. So for instance, if we say +1 here, you think about everything that we had before is now 1 bigger. So 0 here is now at 1, -2 here, -2 plus 1 would be -1. Our 0 point is going to again be at 1. 2 is, we're going to have to kind of draw this up off the graph, is going to be at 3. 0 is going to be at 1. And you can see that first cycle, if we connect the dots, and it's going to shift everything here up by 1. If we wanted to kind of complete this, we would again shift everything here up by 1. And we'd get our second cycle. So again, everything is 1 bigger than it was before. So this is one way you can go about doing it, drawing the original graph and then shifting it. Or the other thing you can do is just to do everything in one fell swoop. So what you would do here, again, we know we've got the same function that we had up above. We've got that +1 here. What we would do here, again, our amplitude is 2 and it's negative, so it is flipped. Our period again is 2 pi over 3. Our midline now is at y equals 1. So that's what that green does there, it changes it again. And then our phase shift is going to be the negative pi over 3. Again, we know our starting point is at x equals pi over 3, and our ending point is at x equals pi. So again, nothing's changed there except for our midline here. So what we would do here is, again, if we're kind of labeling this, I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller now just because we know we're going to have to go up to 3 because our amplitude here is 2. And then we're going to be adding that 1, so we know we're going to have to go up to 3 here. So let's mark that as 3 and that as -3. And we're going to put our midline here. I'm going to make it a green line here at 1 because that is what we are going to now be oscillating above and below. So our amplitude is going to have to get 2 above this one and 2 below this one. So again, if we think about our starting point, we are starting at the point pi over 3, but now instead of starting at 0, we're going to be starting at 1. So let's mark over here, we'll mark our units on the x-axis, pi over 3, that's pi, that's 2 pi. And again, what we're going to do here is we're going to start at pi over 3, but now instead of for a sine curve starting at 0, we're going to shift that up by 1. So we're going to start there at our midline. We're going to go 2 below this midline. So 2 from that 1 would put us at -1. So at our quarter mark, we're at -1. Then we go back to the midline at the halfway point, not 0. Then we go up to 2 above. So 1 plus 2 gets us at a height of 3. And finally, we get back down to our midline to complete our first full cycle. Again, if we want to go backwards, we would go back to -pi over 3. Again, we'd be starting at our midline. At our quarter point, we'd be down at -1. At our halfway point, we're back at the midline. At the 3/4 point, we're 2 above the midline. And we can complete that cycle to get 2 full cycles. So now that the midline is adjusted, one way that we can always figure out the amplitude kind of working backwards, as long as we can determine what our midline is here, the point that it's oscillating up and down about, we can find our amplitude kind of working backwards. Our amplitude is always going to be our highest point minus our lowest point divided by 2. And again, this is only going to work for sine and cosine curves. But in this case, if you look here, our highest point is 3, our lowest point is -1, and we're going to divide that by 2, so we end up with 3 minus -1 is 4 over 2, which reduces to 2, and that is the amplitude we had. So that was how you could work backwards to find something if you were given the graph. So this concludes the videos for section 12.2.